Hi, as a professor of leadership and culture at a university, a lot of people will ask me about how the cultural anthropology of the Mediterranean world, back to millennial, has anything to do with today's world. And it has everything to do with today's world. So, for example, one of the things that I have discovered is these magnetic or invisible forces that take place on in a corporate business or team setting. So let's talk about the sports application. Can we do that? Okay. So one, the most amazing thing happened is I am doing a podcast, and in that podcast, we're talking about these magnetic forces, and interestingly enough, I have the chance to interview an ex NBA player. And I use my formula for what I call communicative competency, my S.A.L.T, for that discussion. And I want to describe those 4 steps for you that you can do that will literally, it has the power to transform lives. My S, of course, in this SALT acronym stands for safe. You're going to just provide a safe space for this dialogue to take place. There's a human primal urge for the need to feel safe, secure, and seen. And that's what this first S also does. I want to hear you, but I'm going to give you this safe space for you to tell your story. When we walk away, I want to make sure that you know that nothing's going to harm our relationship. That, as a matter of fact, I'm thinking that it's going to improve. Whatever relationship we have is going to get better because of this conversation. But you have permission to say anything that you want to me in regards to some of these questions I'm going to ask you. So, secondly, the A stands for just kind of attentive listening, leaning in, asking questions, being inquisitive, not stopping the conversation and defending my position if we disagree, but actually trying to hear out the other person in disregard to my own opinions about a certain subject matter. So remember, because they were safe. So in the second one, the A is I'm going to lean into listening, active listening. The L is learning. What is this person saying that I can come away with? I put them at a place where I'm not the expert. I'm not the subject matter or content expert in their story. They are. So I have to let them also know, and it really edifies them in this kind of power differential scale where they get the place of telling me about them, by which I don't put my own stuff into. I set that aside in this 4-part S.A.L.T, communicative competency tools that I want to teach you and walk you through. And so I really do. I learn. I'll record, I'll have a journal, I'll write down the key things. I will actively listen because I am interested in hearing their story that learns from them. Here's the story, and then I'll share with you the tea. So this NBA player tells me that he's on a team, NBA team. He's a very well-known player, having come off winning a national championship, and so he has a lot of bragging rights for that. And he says that his team brings in a assistant coach, and the assistant coach is supposed to be doing the kind of the scouting reports. So every week they get together with the assistant coach. The assistant coach is going to say, "Hey, look here's what you should be prepared for when we play, the Nuggets or the Lakers or the, whoever it is. And let me tell you about the different players. And so this is what they're getting. You ready for this? So he's sitting there and he's a black player. As a black player, he says, he's in that room listening to this white coach, and the white coach comes in and says, okay, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna scout them out in the scouting report, but you got to be really careful for this player over here, because he's a really smart player. This is what he's telling me. He's a really smart player. And this guy over here, he's also a really smart player. But this guy over here, when in our scouting reports, they show that they're very athletic. So the athleticism is way off the thing. But what this white coach is actually saying is that these white players are the smart players and the black players are the athletic players. So when you play this team who's coming to town, or we're going to, fly to Madison Square Garden or something and play, right? And you got the white player, just beware because they're the smart ones. And then when you're playing against the black person, just make sure you know that they got super high athleticism. I mean, do you see the racial implicit magnetic forces at work that were with implication was saying that white people are smarter than black people? It was embedded in this white coach's language without even notice. This white bias was embedded without even being aware of what he was communicating to his team. So how do you think it made this team feel in unity in trying to accomplish the goal of winning a championship when there was this kind of invisible force at work of racism, just based on ignorance rather than on understanding? So what this process does, it breaks that down. It says, look at, these are some of the implicit things that are at work. Let's recognize them. Let's overcome them. Let's realize that, everyone's worth and value on the team. But be very careful if you're not sitting there on the bench judging the person next to you, thinking that they're more athletic, but not quite as smart as you are. And yet all of these things are these, like the same poles of magnet that push against each other, that are repellent rather than attractive. Something that we can't do well in this culture, in our American culture of high individualism and independence, is say to ourselves in humility, how can I use this conversation in my learning? You see what I'm going back to here? I'm going back to I actually am trying to hear you. I've given you a space, safe space to do that. I want you to lead me through your story so that I'm a learner from you in hearing that. You ready for this? That'll transform my life. How can I be a changed person because of what I've learned from that person by giving them a safe space to tell me their story? And so this personal transformation literally can set you free, break down barriers, build greater connections, and build harmony in teams in these where there's these implicit forces, invisible forces at work against that. Now that I shared with you my 4-step formula for breaking down some of the barriers and creating unity and connection, changing neural pathways and personal transformation, I would very much like to help you implement those either in your place of work and or on your team. So reach out to me on the website right here on this video. I would love to come and help you build that championship winning team culture.